guys, so this is my first time doing a voiceover on any of my videos. Here you see me painting my mystical forest painting that I finished probably a couple months ago now, but I have not gotten around to posting the video. Just kind of based on like a redwood, trees of mystery sort of feel with really large trees and a few little cabins in the top. All I'm doing in the beginning that you just saw was laying down a little bit of a base layer of a green so that the whole picture will kind of have this green effect when the other paint goes over on top of it, so it all kind of has the same feel. I kind of wanted it to feel, you know, deep in the woods, a little, everything turns green and blues. I'm just working on the skies here, and you can see a few little white spots here and there, and that is me leaving room for the little fairies or wisps or fireflies, kind of whatever you want to see them as. This is just a little tree, a baby one obviously, since the other ones are huge. I did a lot of layers on this painting with the trees so that they would have a lot more depth and texture to them. Now you can really start seeing those little white circles, the little wisps showing up. I just keep doing layers and layers on the trees and in the background to really kind of make them stand out, and each of them kind of have that blue tone, of course, from the background, but also I'm adding more blue on top of them to give them some shadows and coloring, and then I start working a little bit more towards the lower part, and I kind of figured, you know, a lot of times moss in the greenery kind of grows up from the forest floors, so the bottoms of the trees have a lot of green on them. Another little baby tree. Of course, you know, if there's a bunch of big trees, they're going to make a bunch of little baby trees. And we all know what Bob Ross said, that trees always need a friend. So the more trees, the better. Here's a fallen tree in the background that kind of covers or hides the little path. Just adding some foliage to the ground, giving it some different colors, and I just kind of really like that mossy green color for the forest floor. Also, I use Daniel Smith paint a lot in most of these paintings now. I used to have some other brands, but for the most part I use Winsor, Newton, or Daniel Smith. I also use some M.Graham. But anyway, so I got this really awesome color from Daniel Smith called Serpentine, and it's so pretty that I really want to use that green in everything, so the excuse of using it on the forest floor was great because it has some cool granulation to it, but it has this kind of yellow tone that will show up, but you can mix it with a lot of things too. So obviously I used a lot of blue, and I used Daniel Smith Mayan blue and Mayan dark blue for a lot of my bases and my pictures. They're kind of my favorite blues right now. Just doing a few little details and adding in more little bits of grass and leaves and plants and filling in little spaces. Lots of foliage on the forest floor. I liked painting the rocks too, because that's really fun and gives a little bit more added interest to the ground. And obviously somebody's built this little path here because it has stepping stones, and I would assume that it's whoever lives in the little forest cabin. More little baby trees and little plants. This voiceover thing isn't as easy as everybody makes it seem. I really don't know what to talk about and what anybody's interested in me talking about the painting. So, of course, if you have any questions or have any ideas for me, you can leave them in the comments below. And I will definitely take them into consideration because this is all pretty new for me. But I think it'll be fun, and I don't know how to explain some of the things I do, and so that might be something I could work on. So it's about finished with the forest floor here, and I will start working on the little wisps that are flying around by the trees. And here I'm adding some ferns that are ginormous in the background. Again, using that serpentine from Daniel Smith. Any excuse to use that green. Here I'm adding some yellow to the lanterns and the cabins, just to give it some hue, like they're lit, and I'll come back in and keep adding a little bit here and there. Here I'm trying to add a little bit of white gouache to the wisp, and I left the background a little bit lighter so that you could see them, but I also add the white gouache to give them a little bit of a haze. just going back in and adding some colored pencil to give it a little bit of a sharper detail, add some contrast, detail to the wood on the cabins. Here I'm just adding a little bit more detail across the whole picture. It's nearly finished. Here I'm adding some yellow to the windows and the lanterns in order to give them a little bit more brightness. It also helps to keep it a yellow tone instead of turning a little bit green from the background. And you see me use a Copic multi-liner once in a while, and that's just to add some inky details. And there's the white details that magically appeared. Somehow I missed recording that, but they're there. I added most of those with white gouache, and then I come back in with a gel pen to add some finer details. It's just quicker. The gouache still has some opacity to it. And then I got some acrylic gouache, which was a lot better and stays a lot more opaque. So that was very helpful to add some little white details here and there. And I will probably be using that more often now that I have it. And if you're interested, all of my materials that I use are listed in the description below, as well as a few of them are shown at the end of the video. Also, if you're interested, you can follow me on Instagram at Shellica. These will all be listed at the end, as well as I've started a Patreon page, so if you'd like to support my art, please follow the link in the description or at the end of the video. Here's the final piece. Here are my materials. Here are the Daniel Smith watercolors I use, Uni-ball Signo pen, colored pencils, the Acryla gouache I mentioned, and those are the colored pencils I used to make the lanterns and the wisps a little bit brighter. So thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this, please subscribe and follow me on my social media.